And I think at this point, what I want to do is actually give users the ability to create new rooms. So I think I'm going to close out a few of these tabs actually, but I want to make sure that users can actually go to create room and specify their name, because we are going to get to the point where we're actually going to display users' name in the chat. So I want users to be able to create or join a room. So let's start dealing with this functionality. So right now, if I do something here, nothing will happen. Let's go ahead and build this in. So let's jump back into, or not back into, but let's jump into join form for the first time. So in the JS file, we'll go into lobby, not join. And in here, we'll also pull up lobby.html. So let's just, oops, didn't mean to open that in live server. We'll close out room RTC, room HTML, room CSS, and we'll do lobby HTML. We'll open that to the side. Okay, so here we have a form. We have a container and we have a lobby form. So let's get this form and add in an event listener that actually responds to when someone submits it. So we'll set the value of form, and this will be document.getElementById. We're just going to go ahead and get lobby _form, and we'll add the event listener right away. So we'll do form dot add event listener, and we're going to listen for the submit event, and we'll just add in the function right in here. So we'll make that an arrow function, and let's see. So the first thing I want to do is prevent default. So we want to take care of all the functionality that occurs when the form is submitted, and I need to get the room name. So I want to make sure that this is not required, because I want to do something a little bit different here. So the name will be required. We'll leave that right there. But for the room value here, this is all inside of the form. Let's go ahead and get that. So let's just go ahead and specify the value of invite code. And this could be the room name, invite code. The reason why I called it invite code is because if I'm in a room and I want to add another user, I would just send them the room name or invite code. It really doesn't matter at this point. So we'll go ahead and get the target value. So that's going to be the form, and we're getting room.value. Okay, so we're going to get that invite code, but if an invite code doesn't exist, we're going to use a not operator, and we're going to go ahead and say, hey, if we don't have an invite code, let's just go ahead and create a new invite code. So for this, we're just going to go ahead and do string, and we're going to generate a random number between 1 and 10,000. So we're going to do math.floor, and in here we can do math.random to generate a random number. So we'll do random, and at this point, we'll just do by 10,000. Okay, so there's different ways to do this. You can maybe force users to create a UID. This part's up to you. I'm just showing you the functionality. So let's go ahead and do window.location. So we're just going to redirect a user. So once the form is submitted, we're going to redirect the user to the room.html page. Now at this point, we also want to throw in the room value, and this is how we're going to get this from the other page here. So we'll do room, and then this is going to be the invite code. Okay, so inside of our room_rtc.js file, we're getting the room ID from the URL right here. So we're getting that room value, and then up until now we've just been setting that room to main, but we want to actually change this. So let's go ahead and just give this a test and see what's happening. So if I'm in the room here, let's go to create. I'm just going to add in a name because that is required. If I go to room, we just see a random room generated. Now if I go ahead and paste this in, as long as we're in the same room, we can see another user. But if I change this value right here, we're in that room page, but this user and this user are in two separate rooms here. So let's say I can add in a random amount of characters. It doesn't really matter. We're in two separate rooms, so that's how we're able to do that. But if I want to create a room and have a specific name, so let's say I name my room test here, I can go to the room. Here I'll see it. So if I send this number or this value to another user, let's just go ahead and bring this in here. Give me a second here. Okay, so if another user goes here and they specify their name, let's just do Dennis, and I tell them, hey, the room name is test. So they can go here, and now we're in the same room. Okay, so that's the idea here. Either generate a random room number or a room invite code, ID, whatever you want to call it, or create another one or a custom one. Now, the next thing I want to do is go ahead and actually have a display name. So at some point, we're actually going to have a chat here, and I want users to be able to actually see our name here. So on the sidebar, and then when we're actually messaging. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and try to get the name from local storage. So right here, let's just go ahead and do let, and we'll call this display name. And the idea here is to get the name from local storage. So we'll call local storage dot get item, and we're just going to go ahead and get display underscore name. So if we've actually been on this website before and we've entered a name in, we should just go ahead and get that value from local storage. So that way we're not having to type this in again. Now we can always update it, but we're just going to go ahead and get that value. Now, if this value does exist, we're just going to go ahead and do if display name, if it does actually exist here, let's go ahead and just add it to the form here. So we'll just do form dot name dot value, and we're just going to set it. Sorry, I don't know what's going on here. So form dot name dot value. Okay, and that's going to be equal to display name. So let's go ahead and test this. Actually, before we finish this up, we're just going to go ahead and actually submit the form with this. So when we submit the form, we need to update this name. So we'll just do local storage. So local storage dot set item. So when we submit it, if we don't have a name yet, we'll just do display underscore name, and we're just going to set the name value. So we'll do e dot target dot name. And every time I do name, for some reason it seems to mess this up, so we'll just do that slowly. So we're going to set the name value anytime we submit it. Okay, so let's try this out. So we'll go in here, we'll go to create room. Okay, so it looks like I already have the name Peter inside of local storage. So that's the beauty of local storage, it automatically filled this in. So if I do Dennis, we'll just go ahead and set the room name as 1. Now if I go back to create room, if I refresh this, Dennis is right here. So if I go ahead and do inspect here, I'm not going to go into the difference between local storage and session storage, other than the fact that session storage will be cleared once we're off this website. It's just for the session, whereas local storage will store this value in here for a set amount of time, or whatever we actually want to leave that as, whether it's permanent or a specific amount of time. This value will always be in here. So that's how we get the local storage. So if I remove that and I refresh that, let's try this again. So right now if I refresh it, nothing's going to be in there. If I added Dennis, that value was added to our local storage, and that's always going to be there. So for testing purposes though, because I want to open up multiple tabs, let's change this to session storage, and then we'll do session storage right here. So that's all we wanted to do here. And what I want to do is make sure, before we jump into the next step here, is I want to make sure that a user always has a display name. If they don't, I want to make sure that we simply just redirect them. So let's actually take this display name value, and let's copy that, and let's move this into room underscore RTC. So we'll bring this in here. So we're going to get that display name. Now we're going to check. We're going to say if there is not a display name, so we'll use the not operator, not dispatch event. So if there's not a display name, let's go ahead and simply redirect the user. So we'll not allow the user to be in here without a display name. So we'll do location. So window.location, and that's going to be equal to the lobby page. So lobby.html. Okay, so let's try this. So if I go ahead and try to enter the room without a name, so we'll just go ahead and add in some kind of room name. It actually requires it. So let's just go ahead and add in Dennis. Now I'm in the room, but if I go in here and I clear that local storage, let's go into application. Let's go into session storage, actually not local storage, we'll clear that there. And in session storage, if I remove this and refresh it, it's just going to redirect me back to the lobby page. So I cannot enter a room without a name. Okay, so let's move on to the next section here, and what I want to do now is start adding in some real-time features into this project by listing out participants that are currently in the room. So as users join or leave the room, we want to be able to update this right here and the participants total, along with a chat room on the side. So this is all going to be in real time. Now, typically, you would need to use something like WebSockets to add in real-time communication and some kind of signaling server. But for this, Agora actually provides us with another SDK called Agora RTM, and we're going to be able to use that SDK to build all these features in. So there's a lot of cool stuff with that. And up until now, we've worked with the RTC SDK, so real-time communication. That has everything to do with audio and video. Now it's time to add in another SDK and start building this out. So if we go back into our Agora console, go ahead and go into, let's see, we'll go into documents here or downloads. Actually, let's start with the API reference and let's look up the RTM SDK. So go ahead and select web right here for your platform. And down here, if we scroll, we can see real-time messaging. So this is the SDK, this is the API reference. And if you look here, we can see a lot of features here. So we can send peer-to-peer messages, we can send messages to a channel, and we can also get information about this channel, like who's in it, and get updates on when people join or leave a channel. So that's how we're able to communicate, is by joining channels and sending messages either directly to peers or to these channels. So let's just go ahead and get started, and you'll see how all of this works. So what we're going to do here is go back into our console, and I'm actually going to go into the download section, and we're just going to go ahead and download the SDK for RTM. So we have real-time messaging. Let's go ahead and click that, and we're just going to need to add this into our application and connect a few things. So I'll move this over here and I'll minimize this. Let's just grab the zip file right here. Let's go ahead and go into the libs folder, and let's take this one right here. So the .js extension, and we're going to drag this into our project. So we'll close all of this out, and back inside of our code here, let's just go ahead and connect a few things. So the SDK is right here. Let's drag this into the JS folder. So let's move everything in one section here, and then we'll go back into lobby.html, and let's just connect it down here. Let's see, that's actually supposed to be in room.html. So we'll minimize that, and let's go in here, and we'll just bring this down here. So let's copy and paste this, and I'm just going to go ahead and get the name here. So this is Agora-RTM. Make sure you grab the right one. We're going to copy that name, and I'm just simply going to update everything from after JS all the way to .js. Okay, so let's jump back into room_rtc.js, and what we need to do now is configure the RTM SDK here that we just added. So just like we did with the RTC SDK, we created a client object, then we take our room name and UID that we have generated, and we join a room with a specific user. So we join a room right here, we use the UID, token, app ID, and so on. Well, we're going to do a lot of the same stuff with the RTM SDK, except for in this case, we're going to join a channel, which is going to be like a room. So it's kind of similar here. And with this room, we're able to send messages to and get information about all those users. So the first thing I want to do is configure a client object. And at this point, let's just call this RTM client. And I'm just going to prefix it so we know that this is for the RTM SDK. And we also want a channel, and this can also be called room channel. That's kind of the same thing. I'm just going to go ahead and keep it that way because that's a common convention when we're dealing with something like this. So we have our client and our channel, and we want to go ahead and initialize this. So inside of the join room init, when we join this video call, we're also going to join the channel using the RTM SDK. So let's actually move this down here. So we're basically joining two things at once here, and we're going to go ahead and get the RTM client, and at this point we can call await Agora RTM. So before we did RTC, now we're doing RTM right here because we have that SDK, and I also need to set this value. So we're calling Agora RTM dot create instance. So again, I would highly recommend you look at the Agora documentation, go back to the same place that I showed before, look at the API reference, and you'll see the details about all these functions if you need to do something else there. So at this point, we're just going to go ahead and pass in our app ID. So that's how we create an RTM client instance. Now, once we create that RTM client instance, let's go ahead and actually log in with this client. So we're going to call that client object. We'll call login. And to log in, we are going to need our UID. So we have the UID that we specified earlier along with the token. Now remember that we set our token or the authentication to app ID only. So token is okay if we leave it as null. So let's just recap this. We created the UID and we also have our token. So we're using the same exact values to log into RTC and RTM. Okay, so we log in here, and the next thing we want to do is go ahead and actually create or join a channel. So we're going to take that channel value that we just created, and we're going to go ahead and call await. And here we're going to do RTM client dot create channel. So again, if this channel exists, we're just going to join it. If it doesn't, we're going to create it. And we're going to take that same room ID. So the room ID that we created for the RTC client here, well, we're going to join the same thing. So we're creating, or we're joining a room with that room ID from the URL. And once we actually create the channel, we need to join the channel. So I actually misspoke there. We're going to create it and then join it. So we're going to call channel.join. And let me just throw in await here just in case. Okay, so we create the RTM client. We log in with that client using our UID and token. And then we go ahead and create a channel and we join that channel. So we're in that channel. Now, once we're in that channel, what I want to do here is I want to see everybody else that's in this channel. So At this point, let's just go ahead and create another JavaScript file. So any of the functions dealing with the Agora RTM SDK, we're going to keep that separate so we're not adding to this file and making this longer. I think we're at about 210 lines of code right now. So we'll still work in this file here, but I just want to make sure that any functions that could be separated are separated here. So we're joining the channel at this point. Everything's looking good. So let's go into the JS file and we'll create a new file, and we're going to call this room_rtm.js here. And let's go ahead and create this function. So when we join a channel, there's going to be an event listener just like we had right here where we had client on user publish. So anytime a user publishes their stream or leaves right here, we have these side effects that get called. Well, with RTM, we're going to have the same thing here. And this is how we're going to be able to update those participants in the DOM and actually know when someone joined. So we're going to go ahead and call the channel here, and we're going to call the on, and then we'll do member join. So make sure that's a capital M and capital J. So on member joined, we're going to call a function, and this is going to be called handle member joined. So we're just going to go ahead and actually call this function here, and we're going to build this function inside of Agora RTM. And before we actually start working with this, let's go back into room.html, and I want to make sure that we actually connect RTM here. So let's go ahead and bring this down here, and we're going to change this to RTM like that. Okay, so we added that in. We want to make sure that we have access to everything. And actually, just in case, let me bring this above RTC. So I just want to make sure that we're actually having access to all these functions. So I think placing that above would actually be better. Okay, so we'll go back into room RTC. So we're calling handle member joined. And in room RTM or room_rtm.js, let's go ahead and create this function. So we'll do let handle member joined. We'll make this an async function. And by default, when we call this function, we want to know the member ID, so we actually have access to that. So we'll do member ID, and let's go ahead and make this an arrow function and close this off here. And for now, let's just console this out so we can actually see it. So we'll do console.log, and we'll just do a new member has joined the room. And then let's just console out the member ID. So let's just get the core functionality in, and then we'll actually start working with the side effects here. So we have the function, we call the function here on member joined, so it listens for that event, and here we go. So let's check this out. So if we go back into our application here, let's open this up. Let me close out a few of these. So let's go ahead and actually go into inspect here, check the console. I'm going to refresh this. So we're in the room right now, but if I join as another member, we should see this consoled out. We should see a new member has joined the room, and then that should actually show up here. Okay, what did I do here? Okay, so we should actually see this consoled out because it's going to fire this off. So let's try this. And we're also joining the same room. So the room is going to be 5694. So we have to make sure it's the same one. So let's move this down here and let's join. We'll copy and paste that. Oh, I guess I need the room name here. And let's just join as Tim. So let's throw in a name. So we'll go to room, and right away we see. Here, let me mute this so I'm not hearing the echo. Okay, so immediately we're seeing this get consoled out. So we'll just say a new member has joined. So here we go. We can see it. So we can see that user's ID, and we know someone else has joined the room. So perfect. Now let's go ahead and actually add them to the DOM. So when a new member joins, I want to be able to update this. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and clear this out, and we're going to start updating that sidebar. So let's go into room.html. And let's go into the member section. So when a new member joins, we're just going to go ahead and create this element and actually add them. So I'll leave this top one right here, and I'll just comment this out because I do need one at least to work with because I want to take the styling. And let's just take all these member wrappers, and we'll go down to the last one, and we'll clear that out. Let's see this. We'll save it. Okay, so we see no members, and I'm also going to reset participants to 0 because we're going to update that. Okay, so when a new member joins, let's take this div. So I'm going to copy this, and let's go back into room RTM. Here, I'm hearing an echo, so I'm going to need to close one of these out. So we're going into room RTM here, and we're going to create another function, and this is going to be called add member to DOM. So we're going to go ahead and add a member. We're going to make this an async function, and at this point, we're just going to pass in the member ID. So member ID, and we're just going to call this, let's see, let member item, and I'm just going to paste in what I copied. So I'm going to use backticks. We'll paste this in, and we're going to add this item to the DOM. So at this point, we're going to want to change this value of 1 to the actual user ID, because when a user leaves, we need to be able to query this and remove it. And we're also going to update the name. Later on, we'll actually add this as a name value, but for now, we'll just throw in the member ID. So let's go ahead and actually add this to the DOM. We'll just do let members wrapper. Whoops, accidentally capitalized something there. And then we'll do document.getElementById. And this is going to be member underscore list, or double underscore. So we'll take that members list, and that's right here. And we just want to add that item to this section. So let's go ahead and get that member, and we'll just do members wrapper dot insert adjacent HTML, not element. So we'll do HTML, and we'll just go ahead and add this before end, and we'll throw in the member item. So we'll take that member item, we'll add it, and then let's go ahead and call this function right here. So we'll add the member to the DOM, pass in the member ID, and let's try this out. So let's open this up, and if I go ahead and join with another member, let me mute a few things here. We should see this pop up here. Actually, here, I keep forgetting to join the room. So we'll join as Tim again, and we'll mute our mic. And here we go. We see the member has joined a room. So we don't see the name, and we don't see our own ID, so we're going to fix that. So when the other member joins, we don't see all the participants. So we're going to fix all of this right now. So let's go ahead and join with another room, or with another member. We'll just do Eric, and this is 5694. Yeah, 5694. We'll go back here, and as that member joins, we can see them enter the room. So perfect. And then this one's only going to see that newest member, and then the current member that just joined won't see that. So we're going to update this in a second. Now, what happens when we actually leave the room? So when we leave a room, the members don't get removed. So we want to actually remove these members here. So as they leave, we have another event that we can listen for, and this is going to be called member left. So we're simply going to take that element from the DOM, find out which member left the room, and we're going to remove them. So there's going to be a little bit more functionality here. So let's go ahead and add this. So we'll go back into room RTC, and we're going to take this event right here. Let's copy this, and we'll do member left here. So left, and then we'll do handle member left. So we'll go back into our room underscore RTM file and create that function. So let's go ahead and create that handle member left, make that an async function. We do need the member ID, so we'll pass that in, create the function itself. And in here, what I'm going to do here is actually go ahead and create another function that's going to remove this member from the DOM. So later on, we're actually going to want to call some other stuff inside of this function. So that's why it's going to be its own function. But we're going to create another function like this where we add the member to the DOM. Here, we're also going to remove it. So let's go ahead and just create that or call it right here. So we'll do remove member from DOM. And we're going to pass in the member ID in here. And then we'll create that function. So remove member from DOM, and we'll make that an async function, pass in the member ID, and let's go ahead and close this out. So all we want to do here is go ahead and grab the specific member wrapper and remove it. So we'll just do member wrapper. So this specific wrapper, we're going to grab it by the ID. So we're looking for this ID. We're going to query this. So this tells us which member left. We're going to go ahead and get that member and then delete them. So the document, not document type, but document, what the heck is going on here? So document.getElementById, and this is going to be member double underscore, passing the member ID, and then we'll do double underscore wrapper. So we're getting that member, and then we're calling member wrapper dot remove, and that's it. So we're just going to go ahead and actually remove the member. Now, to actually leave the channel, if I just close out my browser, technically the member will still stay in there after about 30 seconds. Agora, by default, if it senses an activity, it'll actually just call the leave function and will leave the channel. But we want this to happen immediately. So when a user closes out their room, leaves the channel, turns off their computer, or whatever happens, we want this function to be called. Now, we could call this on click of some kind of back button or some exit button, but that's not always practical because some people leave the room by simply shutting their laptop or turning off their computer. Not everybody always clicks a button. So for this, just to ensure we actually call this function here, we're going to go ahead and call it on the unload or before unload event listener with a DOM here. So we'll first create a function, and this is going to be called leave channel. So when a user leaves a channel, we're gonna go ahead and actually call this. So leave channel, we're gonna go ahead and do await channel dot leave, and then we're gonna log out with the RTM client. So we'll just do await RTM client dot log out. So we're simply leaving and logging out. Now to call this function, and again, this is what's gonna trigger this event right here. So handle member left, this is gonna be that response right here. So when we call this function. So now to ensure that this is always called, let's do window dot add event listener, and we're just gonna do before unload. So before unload. So basically once the DOM is being torn down, once we're starting to tear this down before it actually completes it, we're gonna call leave channel. Okay, so now we can join and leave a channel. So let's go ahead and try this. Here, let me make this room number a little bit easier to remember. We'll just do 1. So we're gonna be in this room, and now when another user joins, we'll do 1, and this will be Tim. So we'll just keep adding these users. And this one will be Eric, or I guess that name is irrelevant, but okay, so the members are being added, but when I close this out, this is gonna call that before unload function. It looks like it's freezing up a little bit. So let's go ahead and close this out. So when a member leaves, we see that be removed from the DOM, and there we go. And then if that member tries to join again, we'll join as Tim1. All right, there we go. So that functionality is ready. So what I want to do now is make sure that when we first load our page, if there is a room with members already in here, so right now I joined as a new user, I want to see myself, and I also want to see the user that was in there before me, because right now we're only seeing the new members that are joining. So if I join as Paul and I join this room, you'll notice that the first user is going to see the 2 new users. This user will see the most recent user, and this user won't see any. So let's go ahead and call a function to get all those members and load them in here. So we'll save everything, and let's go ahead and down below the leave channel function. Actually, we'll do this above right here. So just below remove member from DOM, let's call this get members. So we're going to go ahead and make a call for all the members in the channel on the first load. So to get the members, we're going to create the variable members, and the channel has a function. I actually want to make sure to add in a wait right here. We have a method called get members. So it's going to go into this channel, and it's going to give us every single member that's currently in this channel. It's just going to return back an array of their IDs. So once we get this, we're going to create a for loop, and we're just going to loop through each channel member and then add them to the DOM. So let's go ahead and do let I is equal to 0, and then we'll do members dot length, and if that's greater than I, we'll go ahead and increment I, and then go ahead and add this function in here. So we'll do add member to DOM, and at this point, because of that iteration in that loop, we're actually getting the member IDs. So we'll do members and then get that current member's ID. So we're going to go ahead and call add member to DOM and then render them out here. So to get the members on the first load, let's go ahead and grab this. We'll bring this into room underscore RTC, and I'm going to bring this just underneath the channel functions right here. So let's go ahead and call this. So we'll go ahead and call get members. So we want to have time for everything to load. We'll load all our channel members in there. We'll join ourselves, and then we'll call the function. So let's go ahead and open this up. Here we go. So on the first load, I'm already seeing my own ID. That's perfect. Now when I join as a new user, I want to see my ID. That's going to be the new user's ID, and then the users that are currently in there. So we'll join the first room. There we go. We see 2 IDs and 2 IDs. So we'll mute that there. I guess that didn't mute it. And then we'll join again. Let's call this Paul. Okay, and let's go ahead and join. Perfect. So every single member now sees themselves, and it's lagging right now. It's not an Agora issue. My network actually has been bad all day for some reason. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about this part. That's not an issue with the app. So here we go. We see the members. Everything looks good. As we leave, all that gets updated and perfect. So having an ID is not really practical. We want to actually see member names. So we want to know who's in the room. So let's go ahead and add that next. So this is actually going to be very easy, and I think it's about 2 lines of code here. So all we need to do is go ahead, and as we join a room, we're simply going to add in an attribute to our members. So when we join, we kind of like upload our ID into that room. So our channel ID gets stored there. So that user object is stored in the channel room. And we just want to basically add in an attribute to that user object, and that's going to be a name. So we can add in whatever attribute that we want here. So let's go ahead and as we log in, let's go ahead and create this attribute. So we're going to do await RTM client dot add or update. It's kind of a long function. So add or update local user attributes like that. And then in here, we want to first specify the attribute that we want to add. So this is going to be name. So we want to add in a key value pair. And then we're going to take our current display name. Remember, we have that up here stored somewhere. So we have our user's display name, and we're just simply going to add that in there. So we're adding it as a channel attribute. Okay. So first we add the attribute. So now all other users can actually get this channel attribute by finding our user's ID. So now we'll go back into room_RTM and we're going to get this channel attribute. So in the add member to DOM function, we have the member ID here. So let's go ahead and actually call this right here. So we're going to call let and then name. So we actually want to destructure the return value here. And we're going to call await, and then we can do RTM client dot get user attribute by keys. And we're just going to go ahead and call this function. First, we want to know what user attribute we want to get, or what user's attributes we want to get. So we're going to pass in that member ID. We're saying, hey, this is the user that we want to receive some more information from. And we're going to pass this in as an array, and we want a list of the attributes that we want. So we added this as name right here. So we want to get this value right here. So we're saying, go ahead and get the name value from this specific user. So get user attributes by key. So that should be S right there. I want to make sure I got that right. And let's go ahead and test this. So get user attributes. Just want to make sure all the spelling's correct. So once we get that value, we can go ahead and change the member name to name. So let's go ahead and just update that. And let's give this a test. So there we go. I see my own name. We'll join in as another user. Whoops. Okay, I copied the wrong value here. So let's go ahead and join. What the heck is going on? Won't copy the entire URL. Okay, so we'll join as Paul. Let's go ahead and join room 1. Here we go. We see Paul and Dennis. And then on this end, I see the user's name. So perfect. We're able to add in those channel attributes and join with those users so we can actually see who's in that specific room. So the next thing I want to do is update this total. So we want to make sure to actually get the list of channels, find out the length of that array that we have in that participants list or members list, and we'll just go ahead and update this total. So let's go back into room_RTM. So underneath our add member to DOM function, let's go ahead and create another function, and we're going to call this one update member total. So update member total, and this is going to be an easy function here. So we'll just go ahead and make this an async function by default. Let's go ahead and complete the function, and let's just go ahead and set the value of total, or let's go ahead and actually get that DOM element. So we'll do total, and that's going to be document.get element by ID. This value was member count, so we want to get this element right here, and we're simply going to update the value inside of that. So total is going to be .inner text here, so we're going to update that text from 0 to members.length. So we're going to go ahead and actually pass in the members array into here. So throw that into the parameters, and I want to call this anytime a member joins here. So when a new user joins, let's go ahead and call this. We'll call update member total. We'll throw in members here, and let's actually get the members on the first load. So we'll do let members is equal to channel.get members. And I also need to throw in await right here. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and throw the channels in here, update the total. Let's copy this again. We also want to update it when we leave. So, or when a user leaves. So handle member left, we'll bring that in here, update that value, and then we also want to update the total on the first load. So inside of get members, let's also call the function right here. And here we already got the members. So let's paste that in and let's check this out. Okay, so I just need to refresh everything. So we saved it a bunch of times, probably screwed up a few things. So let's go ahead and just mute this, and here we go. Okay, so here we see 2 members. Let's go ahead and bring in another one. Paste that in. We'll call this one Eric. Join the room. We see 3 total, and then these were updated to 3, and this one was updated to 3. If we leave, that should be updated, and there we go. So we are now updating the participants' totals, and we have all the information. So we took care of most of the core functionality here, and now it's time to move on to actually adding in chat messages. So just underneath our get members function here, let's go ahead and create a new function, and we're going to call this one send message. So this function will be responsible for actually sending out a message to the entire channel. So anybody that's a part of this channel can have an event listener that can listen for this, and this is a channel message. So we have channel messages and we have peer-to-peer messages. We won't work with the peer-to-peer messages right now, but I just want to let you know that there's ways to actually direct message people based on their UID. So inside of the send message function, let's go ahead and prevent the default. So we'll do e.prevent default. And then after this, what I want to do is go ahead and get the message from the form. So we'll go ahead and grab that. Message is going to be e.target. And then we'll just go ahead and get the value. So target.message.value. So I want to make sure that this is the name that I actually give that form field. So let's go back into that form field inside of room. Let's see, where was that? So we have our stream or messages container. So let's go ahead and go to the bottom here. So we have our message form, and then we have the name of message. Okay, so we're grabbing the right value. So we're just going ahead and grabbing that message here. And then once we actually get that message, we want to send out a channel message. So we can go ahead and grab that channel value, and then we have a method called send message. So this is going out to everybody in that channel, or I guess in that entire channel. Now in here, we want to go ahead and send the actual text value. So we could do something like this and then pass in the message. Let's say the message was hey, like that. We can go ahead and pass in a string. Well, in our case, I want to send a little bit more data. I want to send our name, the type of message that we're sending, because we can actually send different types of messages. So what I'm going to do here is send an object, but first I'm going to stringify it, and then we'll parse it on the other end. So we want to make sure it's sent as a string. So inside of stringify, we'll go ahead and add that object, and then let's go ahead and specify the type. So type will be a chat message, and then the actual message value. Let me create some space here so you can see everything. So we'll go ahead and get the message, and this is going to be the message from the form. And then after that, we'll go ahead and send our display name. So we'll do display name, and we'll camel case that, and then we'll throw in the display name that we currently have. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue to the next step here. So we're sending our message, and before we actually start adding this to the DOM, I'm just going to go ahead and console this out. So let's go ahead and just reset our form, and then we'll actually see what it looks like in the console, and then we'll actually start adding it to the DOM. So let's take this one step at a time. So we'll do e.target.reset. So the form will reset after we send it. Let's just make sure that that's working. So if I type something out here, hit enter, it's just going to reset. It looks like it actually refreshed the page. So I forgot one more thing here. Let's actually add in the event listener. So down here, and this is all inside of room_RTM. Let's go ahead and get that message form. Select, and we'll call this message form. And this is going to be document.getElementById. And we're just going to go ahead and grab the message _form. Double check this. We have message form, perfect. And then let's add in the event listener. So we'll do message form.add event listener. And the event we're listening for is going to be submit or on submit. And then we're just going to call send message. So this will send out a message. Now on the other end, I'm sure you're starting to see this pattern now. We need a way to actually handle the response to this message. So if we go to room_RTC, right here we have this channel member joined, channel member left. We also want to listen for a message. So let's go ahead and copy this one right here, paste this below, and then we're going to listen for the event of, let's see, I actually need to add in a channel here. So channel, or the C there, and we're just going to listen for channel message. So again, in the Agora documentation, these are all the events we can listen for. So anytime someone calls the send message function, that's going to trigger channel message because that's the type, and we're just going to handle the channel message. So we'll call it handle channel message, and now we need to create this function to actually respond to that message. So what's going to happen when a peer gets this message? So let's go ahead and build that out. So we'll go back into room_RTM, and just above send message, let's go ahead and create the handle channel message function. So we'll go ahead and call this handle channel message. We're always making them an async function, and here we're going to get the message data. And we also want to know who this message came from, so we're going to get the member ID. So those are two values that we can access right away, and then we'll continue on with the function. And the first thing I want to do is console this out, so let's just go ahead and do console.log, and we'll just say a message, let me fix this, a new message was received. Okay, so we got a new message, and I don't know why I can't spell received. Let's see. Whoops. Okay, so a new message was received. Then we want to get the actual message, so we're going to create a variable called data. And remember that the message was actually stringified, so we need to go ahead and parse it. So we're just going to do json.parse, and we're going to parse message data.text. So we're just getting the text value right here. So we want to get everything inside of this object. So there's more data that comes with this message, but we're just wanting to get that value because that's the actual data of the message. And at this point, let's go ahead and do console.log, and we want to see the message. So message, and then let's pass in the message. So this will be an object, and we're not getting message data, but data. Okay, so we send a message to the channel, we reset our form, we have the event listener that listens for that submission. In this section, we actually listen for that event here, and let's go ahead and check this out, see if we did everything okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and mute this, bring in a new member here, and let's change the, whoops, what's going on here? Okay, I need to reset this entire thing. So let's join the room name of 1, and we'll do that again. So we'll do Peter. I don't know where I come up with these names. I guess more common names. I'm just going to stick to that. Okay, so I'm going to mute this. Okay, so let's go ahead and do inspect here. And we're going to have this user right here send this user a message. Well, technically to the entire channel. So let's go ahead and make sure we can see the console. And let's just do, hey, like that. We'll send it. And then on this end, here we go, we see that chat message. So that happened in real time. I didn't have to refresh anything. This other user automatically got that message. Let me try this again. We'll just do hi this time, and I just want to see how that works. So as I'm typing this out, you can keep seeing the messages right here, so we can see the actual chat or the message type, the message itself, the display name, and so on. So we're able to actually go ahead and get all of this data. So the next thing I want to do is actually add this to the DOM. So I guess the fact that we're sending out a channel message, you should assume that both users can actually send messages back and forth. So this user can now respond to this one and so on. Okay, so we'll go back here and we're going to create a function called add message to DOM. So I'll just go ahead and bring this right here, just underneath send message, and let's just go ahead and add this. So add message to DOM. And we want to take the parameters of the user's name, so whoever's sending it, and the actual message value, so the text of the message. And then let's go ahead and actually create an HTML element, so a message, and then we'll append it to the DOM. So before we do that, we want to go ahead and get the messages wrapper. So we want to know where we're adding this element. So we'll do document.getElementById, and we are looking for the container for all the messages here. So all the messages are added into this div right here. So we have the ID of messages. So let's go in here, we'll grab that container, and then we want to create the message items. We'll call this new message, and let's go ahead and use backticks here. And I want to find a message that's not from a bot here. So we have a Mumble bot message, and that looks a little bit different from an actual user message. So we want to get this one, and then later on we'll use the Mumble bot message. So any message that's from the Mumble bot, that's going to be extended by _bot right there. So we want to scroll down and grab one of these right here. So make sure it doesn't say bot. So let's grab that entire message wrapper, and we'll bring that down here. Give me a second. Oh, I keep thinking I need to open up a new tab here. So we'll paste that in right there inside of the backticks. Let's create some space here. And then for the actual name, all we need to do is go ahead and take this out, and we're just going to pass in the name of the sender, and then we'll take in this message right here, and we'll just remove the entire text value. Then we can just go ahead and throw in the message. So we'll throw in message right there, and there we go. So we have the new message, we have the message wrapper, and we just need to go ahead and append this to that messages wrapper. So we'll do messages wrapper dot insert adjacent, not element, but HTML. We'll add this before end, and we'll throw in new message. Okay, so now we want to actually call this here. So there's a few things that we want to fix up here. But the add message to DOM, we want to go ahead and call on send message. So right now, only the sender will actually see that message, and we're going to have to actually add in something on the other end for a user to receive that message. So in add message to DOM, we're just going to go ahead and throw in the display name, and then we'll just do the message itself, and let's test this out here. So let's go ahead and look at this. Let's send a message. So if I say hey, if I scroll down, we're going to see that message. Now if I say hi, we have one slight problem here, and that is the fact that new messages, we want them to appear at the bottom here. So as we're typing, we want to make sure that they always go into frame. If you look at the scroll bar, it keeps scrolling up here, or it keeps adjusting, but we want to make sure that the newest one is always in frame at the bottom. So let's go ahead and add something to fix that. So down here, after this messages wrapper here, after we actually add in the element, what I want to do is go ahead and get the last message. So we'll do last message, and this is going to be document.query selector. So we'll use the query selector, and we want to go ahead and get the messages div. And then we want to go ahead and get the message double underscore wrapper, and we want to get the last one. So we'll do last dash child, and that'll ensure that we always get the latest message in that wrapper. Now, once we get that last message, all we're going to do is call scroll into view. So this will just make sure that this element is in view. So if it's out of view, by default, it'll just quickly adjust, and we're going to scroll that into frame. Now, for some reason, I've actually had issues with this before, so let's actually check if we have a last message. For some reason, when I try to call scroll into view, it doesn't always read it as an element. I feel like if there's no messages, then it tries to call it, and then that's when it throws an error. So anytime we're calling it for the first time, that's where I get that issue. Okay, so that should fix it. We get the last message, then we scroll it into view. So if I go ahead and just refresh everything, let's try this again. So we'll say, hey, and there we go. So now we see it. If I say hi, hello, the latest message comes in. So now I want to make sure that remote users actually get this message. So right now we're only calling it when we send it. So we want to go ahead and make sure we call add message to DOM on the receiving end. So at this point, we need to do this inside of the handle channel message. So anytime we receive a message, we want to actually get the message and then append it to the DOM. So here we go. We have handle channel message. Let's go ahead and clear this out. We'll just leave this right here just in case we need to debug later. So at this point, let's go ahead and check the type of message. And if we get a chat message, so if data.type, if this is a chat message, so remember we sent that with the object of chat right there, we want to go ahead and actually get this message. So we want to append the message to the DOM, but we first need to get the user's name, so the sender. So let's go ahead and throw in name, and then we'll do data.message. So we're getting the message value, and then we're getting the display name. So at this point, we can just go ahead and do data.displayName. So let's go ahead and save that, and we'll try this one more time. So I'll bring this to the left here, and then I'll take another one, bring it to the right. Let's make sure we're in the same room. I believe the room ID is 1. So let's just go ahead and rejoin again. So we'll do Dennis 1, and then we'll do Tim, and then we'll also do 1. So let's go to the room. We'll open up the chat here, and I'm going to mute the audio so I don't hear an echo, and let's try here. We'll say hey. So Dennis says hey to Tim, or everybody in the room, and then Tim says hi to everybody in the room, and there we go. So we have real-time communication between them. Awesome, it's looking good. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of cleanup. So I want to go ahead and get rid of these extra messages right here, and we're just going to comment this out because we're about to add in this bot right here. So I want to comment out that bot message, make sure that we have it so we can actually use it in the new function we're about to create. So we'll go to room, and let's go ahead and go to the bottom of the messages, and let's grab every single message but this last one at the top. So delete all of them but one. We'll go ahead and save this because this is a bot message. And let's go ahead and comment this out, create some space here so we have a fresh start here. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and start all over again. There we go. That looks good. And there's one issue here is that the chat box right here doesn't actually have this background until I add a message. So I'm going to go ahead and work on some CSS. So when you get the template, this should be updated. I'll make sure to fix that. But now let's go ahead and move on to adding in this bot message. So let's go back into room_RTM, and what I'm going to do here is take this entire add message to DOM function, and let's just copy everything and duplicate it, and we're just going to add in another function to deal with bot messages. So let's take the one on the bottom. So we have add message to DOM, and then this one's going to be add bot message to DOM. Now in here, we're just going to go ahead and change up a few values here. So we're going to call this one bot message. So we'll do bot message, and we're only going to throw in this one parameter because of how we're going to throw in the text based on the message from the bot. And at this point, let's go ahead and change this value. So let's actually take this entire div right here. Let's grab that and we'll copy it. And I guess I could just remove it right away here. So let's just go ahead and take that out, save it, and let's go back into this function. So we'll take this value right here and paste that in. Let's fix the indentation. And we have this bot emoji, so there was a hex value to that. You could just literally look up a robot emoji and then copy that, and that's going to save that hex value for you. So that's how it shows up like this. So the name will be mumblebot, and then for the actual value, well, that's going to be the message that the bot is saying. So this will either be a user left or a user just joined us. So we just want to go ahead and throw that value in. So that's the actual thing that the bot is going to say. Now with this, we have this underscore bot, so the styling is going to be a little bit different. So we changed this up, and now all we need to do is go ahead and call this. So the first place I want to call this is going to be when we first join a room. So I want users to know that there is an active chat box right there. So this way it'll just welcome them to the room, and it'll just notify them that something's actually going on here. So let's go ahead and throw that in. And then the actual message here, let's just do welcome to the room, and then we'll just go ahead and take in their display name. So we'll do display name, and this is what I meant by that emoji here. So let's just go ahead and actually grab it. So I'll just go find one. We'll just call this wave emoji. Looks like I already looked it up. And if you just grab this right here, this should work. Just go ahead and copy that, and I believe that's going to turn it into a hex value. Actually, I've seen it before, and I've never done it before myself until this video, so it's kind of cool to try that. So we just want to wave to the user and say hello. I kind of want it to look a little bit different. Okay, so the bot message is going to say this, and we're just going to go ahead and make sure that that is inside of this text area. So let's check this out. So this is on join room init just after we get all the members. So let's try this, close this out, and there we go. So welcome to the room, Dennis. Makes me feel special. There we go. And now I want to make sure that anytime another user joins, I also want to see a welcome message. Well, I want them to see the welcome message, but I also want to be alerted that someone has joined. This way we can see them in the participants, but we see an active chat move in here. So let's see. At this point, I want to go ahead and call this in the handle member joined function here. So we'll grab this, go back into room underscore RTM, and we have handle channel or handle member joined. And let's see, where do I want to add this? So let's just go ahead and put this at the bottom. So we'll go ahead and grab the user, and we'll say welcome to the room, and then the user's name. So I don't want it to say display name. So what I want to do is go ahead and change this value to name. And earlier I showed you how to get a name here, so we can actually grab it from this section. So we're simply going to go ahead and grab that user's name attribute based on their member ID. So when they join, we have their member ID. So let's go ahead and grab this value, bring this in. So we're going to take that name, and then we'll say welcome to the room, and then whatever their name was. So let's go ahead and test this. So we're in the room, and if another user joins, I should see a message in a second. Oh, let's see. Okay, let's do Tim, and then I'll do 1, and then I'm going to jump back to this one real quick. So as Tim joins, here we go. So Tim sees welcome to the room, Tim, and then I see that Tim was here. Now I want to add in one more bot message, and that's going to be when a user leaves. So I really don't see much value into this, but it's kind of a cool feature, I guess. You can learn how to do it, and then it's up to you if you ever want to add this in. But essentially, I want to know whenever a user leaves. So I want to be able to notify everyone, just, I guess, a small alert that we can add in. It feels like, since the app isn't that active, it feels nice to actually have something filled up in that chat bot, or the sidebar there. So at this point, we want to go ahead and call this function whenever a user leaves. So instead of creating an entirely new function for that, let's go ahead and just call this on remove member from DOM. So rather than querying that user's name again, we're just going to go ahead and call this right here. So let's go ahead and call the message or the function down here. So we'll take this value, we'll go into remove member from DOM, and we're going to call this down here, and we're just going to change the message up, and we're going to say name. So we're going to start it with name, and then we're just going to go ahead and say has left the room. So we're not sending the user the message, we're just letting everyone else know, because that user left, they're not concerned about what's going on in the room anymore. So has left the room. Okay, so we have a message, and now we need to get this user's name. So how are we going to do this? Well, at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and do this very simply, and I'm just going to grab it from this member wrapper. So right now, we're actually getting this member right here, and we're simply removing this element from the DOM. So before we actually remove that, I can just go ahead and get the name. So we'll just do name, and we'll just go ahead and grab the member wrapper, and we'll just do get, let's see, member wrapper dot get element or elements by class name. So we'll go ahead and get elements by class name, and we're going to get the member name to be specific. So member underscore name, and make sure it's 1 underscore and not 2, because I've been using double underscores, but at this point it's only 1. So we're getting all the elements that are the child of that member wrapper that have the class of member name, and there's only one, but it's still going to return an HTML collection because of this. So it's still going to be an array. So let's go ahead and get the first element. So we return an actual item, and then we'll just get the text content of this item. So that's going to be the name itself. So this is how we get the name. We're going to go ahead and throw that in here. So as a user leaves before this item is torn down from the DOM, we're also going to get a message. So let's just go ahead and refresh it just in case here we don't have any errors, and we'll open this up. We'll join as a new user. So we'll just do Tim, and we'll join the room. So Tim has joined the room. We see Tim, and let me just mute this because I keep hearing the echo. Okay, so I'll mute that, and we'll just do Paul. I just want it to look busy. Okay, so right here, we see Dennis has joined the room, so that's us. We see Tim and Paul. So right now, if Paul leaves the room, if I click this, we're going to see Paul removed from here and removed from here. So we'll see the message. So Paul has left the room, and Tim has left the room. So perfect. Now we're getting all the alerts along with us engaging with the chat. So that's the participants and the chat bot there. We added in the Agora RTM. Everything's looking really good, or the RTM SDK. Everything's looking good, and the next thing we want to do is we want to work on how a user actually joins the stream. So the idea would be to turn this into something like more like a social platform where people can stream and talk, have people join the video call, but also be able to come in and just view it. So it's almost like a Twitch, maybe Twitter Spaces type of clone, whatever you want to call it, kind of a mix of that. So right now, when we join, it automatically turns on our camera. We could mute it, but we don't want everybody to join that way. So what I want to do here is add in a join button. So if I want to join as a viewer, I can actually click join and then enter the room. And then later on in the live demo of this, I'll probably have it to where the host can invite people, so not just everybody can join whenever they want. I can imagine that can get pretty messy if we just start letting everybody join the room. So yeah, we'll make this to where these controls won't be here until someone clicks join. When they join, then they'll pop up on screen. So when they join a room, they'll still see their name here. So we'll still see that they're in the chat, just not in a video stream. So to get started with this, let's go ahead and actually jump into our room.html page, and we're going to create a new button here. So we have the stream container. So let's actually get rid of some of this stuff that's commented out. We might as well get rid of this so we don't have extra space in here. So, or we don't have more code taking up space. So we have our stream actions, and it ends right here. So just underneath stream actions, let's go ahead and create a button here, and this will be the join button. So we'll do button, and we'll give this an ID of join-btn. Okay, so we'll have our join button, and we're just going to say join stream. So we want to prompt a user, and then let's go ahead and also style, whoops, I should autofill that. Let's also style the leave button. So I want to make sure that this is red. So we want to give users the ability to still be in the room, but also leave the stream. So if they don't want to be publishing their video stream anymore. So we'll just do this inline. We'll add in a background color. And for this, I have a red hex value that I'm going to use. So this is going to be pound FFF. We'll just do capital F, and then we'll do 5050. So that should give us a red color. So let's see, style, background color. Why does that look off? Oh, I have 2 pound symbols there. Okay, so we have our stream button, and what I want to do is just make sure that it's there, and then we'll actually style that. So there's our stream button. Now we have a red back button. So if anybody wants to leave, it's more obvious. So let's go ahead and go into our room.css, and now we want to style up that stream button. So for this, I'm just going to go down to the very bottom. I'm just going to start a new little section here, and we'll do join-btn. And the first thing I want to do is set a background color to it. So we'll do background. So background color, and this is going to be pound 845695. So we'll make that a purple color. I guess I could have just copied and pasted it right there. And then we're going to set a font size. So we want to make sure that this is a little bit bigger. So we'll do font-size. We'll set this to 18 pixels. And then I want to set some padding here. So we'll do padding. And for this, I'm just going to do 25 pixels and then 50 pixels here. Okay, so I also want to make sure there's no border. So we are going to style this from scratch. So let's just go ahead and set that to none. So we're actually not going to use any of the button styling for one of these, even though it's going to look the same, but I just want to do all of this from scratch. So let's see, for the actual color, we want to set a text color, and this is going to be white, so we'll do $FFF. Okay, and let's see, for the position, I want to make sure this is at the bottom, so we'll do fixed. That way we can place this anywhere we want. And for that, now that it's a fixed position, we'll set the bottom value at 1 rem. That's how much space we'll have from the bottom. We'll set the border radius here of the button itself, so border dash radius. And this is going to be 8 pixels. And then we want to make sure that this is actually completely centered. So we'll do left positioning at 50% here. So 50%. And then we just want to do transform. And for this, we'll do translate X. And that's going to be negative 50%. So this is how we're going to center this item here. And we'll also do cursor pointer. So I want to make sure that people know it's clickable. Okay, so that should place the button right here. So let's see. Join button. I don't know why it's not working. Maybe I didn't save something. We'll go back to room.html. Join BTM. I need N. Okay, so let's try that one more time. Here we go. Okay, perfect. So that's where we want it. Now, in the beginning, before we actually join a stream, I want to make sure that this stream actions container is hidden so we don't see those buttons in the background. So let's go ahead and actually hide those. So let's see, we're looking for stream underscore actions, or we'll do double underscore actions. And at this point, it's display flex, so that's how we inline the buttons. So let's go ahead and set this to none, and then we'll display it as flex when we actually make this appear. So we'll go ahead and hide those buttons. And there we go. So that looks good. And I want to make sure that I'm not joining the stream right away. So let's go ahead and change that now. So we'll go into room underscore RTC. And at this point, when we join a room, we have the join room in it. We call this join stream function. So I want to go ahead and get rid of this. So let's copy this actually. And let's just go ahead and go down to the bottom, and we're going to create an event handler, not event handler. So we'll do document.getElementById, and we're going to create an event listener for the join dash btn. So for the join button, so we'll do add event listener. Let's go ahead and listen for the click event. So we'll do on click. Let's go ahead and call join stream. So now we're only going to join a stream when this button is clicked. So for this, we're going to go back to our join stream function, and let's change up a few things here. So before we actually get that audio and video track, let's go ahead and change up a few values. So we'll just go ahead and grab the join stream button. So we'll do document.getElementById, and this is going to be join-btn. And immediately what I want to do here is just go ahead and actually hide this button. So we'll just do style.display, and we're going to set this to none. Okay, so we're going to hide the join button because we just joined, and then we want to go ahead and actually grab the stream actions container and go ahead and actually display that. So we'll do document.getElement by class name or elements. So let's see, in the template, it's actually set to class here. So we'll go ahead and grab stream actions, and we only have this once, so it should be an ID, or it should be an ID, but at this point, we'll just go ahead and just grab the class because that's fine. So we'll just grab the stream actions class. We need to get the one item, so we'll just go ahead and get the first index of 0, and then we'll just set style.display, and this is going to be to flex. So remember, the original display when in the template was flex, so instead of saying display block, we're going to do display flex, so they're all in line. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and hide the button and then display this one. So we still have more work to do, but let's test this out. So right away when I join, I'm no longer toggling my camera. So we're just in the room, we can chat, we can see that we're in it, other people join, or if they join, we can also see them in the chat here. So let's just find a different name. So let's just do Peter, and we'll join 1. Okay, so we have Dennis and Peter in the room, and they can message each other. Okay, so let's say Dennis wants to join the room. So Dennis can click join. Let's say we have approval to join the room. And there we go. So we toggle it, and now we are in the room. So if I go to Peter's side, Peter is currently not in the room, but Peter can see Dennis streaming. Now, if Peter wants to join, Peter can just go ahead and click join. There we go. now they are both inside of the stream and it's working exactly how we want it. So what I want to do is actually give users the ability to leave now and then also to be able to rejoin the room. So we're going to add in an event listener to this button right here that's essentially going to allow users to leave, unpublish their stream, but still stay in the chat. And then if they want to join back again, let's say the host gives them permission, they can actually jump back into the room. So we're just dealing with a little bit of toggling over here, making sure that all the functionality actually works, so all the clicks are working correctly. So let's go ahead and go down to the bottom of the page here, and I'm going to create a function called leave stream. So it's not going to leave the room, but it's simply going to leave the stream. So go ahead and do leave stream, and we'll make sure that this is an async function. So we'll do async, and let's go ahead and throw in the event here, and let's go ahead and continue the function itself. So leave stream is going to be called on the leave button. So let's add in that event listener right now. So let's copy this. And we have a button called leave. So we have leave BTN. Let's go ahead and add it to this. We can close out room RTM there. So we'll do leave -BTN. And then we're going to add the event listener of leave stream. Okay, so how is a user going to leave the stream? So what exactly is going to happen? So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and change the styling of the buttons. So we'll go ahead and go into join stream, and let's just reverse this right here. So right here we hide the join button and then display the controls. But the first thing I want to do in the leave stream button is go ahead and change this up. And I also want to go ahead and prevent default. So maybe this was set to a link for some reason. So by habit, any link I always do prevent default if I feel like that can mess something up here. So let's do that. And for the join button, let's go ahead and do display block. So we're inverting this. So the join button is now going to be displayed once we leave a stream. And then for the stream actions, we'll do display none. So we simply invert those. That looks good. And then we want to go ahead and turn off our tracks. So I'm going to go ahead and create a loop, and we're going to loop through every single track inside of local tracks here. And we're going to stop and then close each track here. So let's go ahead and create our variable, set that to 0. Then we'll just grab our local tracks. So local tracks dot length here. So we'll go through that, make sure that when that's bigger than I will just simply increment. And then we can go into local tracks and then actually go into each value. So let's see, local tracks I, and then we want to do dot stop. So we'll stop the track from playing. I'll just do dot, sorry, I'm like stuttering a little bit. So we'll want to stop the track. And then we'll want to go ahead and close it. So you can actually close or you can actually stop and start a track, but once you close it, it means the track is closed and you're actually gonna have to create a new one. So we're stopping it and then we're closing it. So we're looping through all the tracks and stopping that stream. Now, once we do that, we want to unpublish our stream. So right now our stream is still technically published. So we want to go ahead and unpublish it from the channel. So we'll call client, and then we can do .unpublish. So we've done this before. So client.unpublish. And we're just going to unpublish our local tracks, audio, and video. So we're going to grab the first index, which is the audio. Then we'll do local tracks and then unpublish the video. So we'll unpublish those. And then if for some reason, let's say we were sharing our screen, we want to check if we were. So we'll just do if local screen tracks. So if we ever click share, let's make sure we unpublish these too. So we'll do local screen tracks. Having a hard time talking here. And then we'll just simply unpublish local screen tracks. So we're unpublishing all of our tracks. Then what I want to do is go ahead and remove my item from the DOM. So I want to make sure that my video frame is removed. So we'll do document.get element by ID. We'll go ahead and grab our own user container. So we'll use backticks user-container, and then we'll throw in our UID. So now we're going to remove our video frame from the DOM. So let's go ahead and call the remove function, and that'll get rid of it. So the next thing I want to think about is if we happen to join a stream and if our video frame is in focus here, so let's say we clicked on our own video frame, if we leave, I want to make sure that we actually go ahead and hide this display frame and that we resize all the circles that were here. So we've dealt with this before, we've done this a few times, but we haven't dealt with this when we actually leave a stream, but we still stay in the room, because this functionality is a little bit different. Before, we've just been leaving the room, so we don't really have to think about what happens when we actually leave and tearing anything down after that. So let's go ahead and run this check. So again, this should be all really familiar now. We're just going to go ahead and check the user in display frame function, and we're just going to check if we're currently the ID that was in there. So if the value is this user container with our ID, then let's go ahead and take that display frame, and we're just going to go ahead and do .style .display, not display frame, but display, and then we're going to set that to null. So we're just going to go ahead and hide it. Now, I also want to make sure that all the circles are resized, so we're just going to go ahead and run through this loop again. And at this point, let's just go into room.js, and I think I should have this somewhere here. So we're just going to take this loop right here. This is inside of the expand video frame function. Let's grab this, and actually, I guess we can grab one of these right here. So let's grab this one inside of hide display, because we want to make sure that those frames are actually expanded since we just hit it. So we'll bring that in here, paste that. So we're going to loop through all those video frames and then reset the size. So let's try this again. Let's join. And then I want to join as a second user. So we'll join as, let's do Steve. And then we'll let Steve join the stream. We'll mute the mics. And then let's see, I think this is my display frame. So if I leave, there we go, it resized it, and then we still see Steve's frame here. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we wanted to deal with. So at this point, what I want to do is make sure that anytime we leave a stream, we also remove that video frame for the remote user. So I'll show you what I mean by this. So right now, if we join the room, I'll just mute the mic. And if we join again with another user, let's just do Paul this time. So if we're in the stream and we happen to leave, what happens here is if we leave, we tear down our video frame and everything looks good. But for the remote users, we technically unpublished our stream, but we never left the room. So the only way we've actually been tearing down this div right here, or that video frame, is inside of the handle user unpublished function, I believe. Let's see, where did we call that? So somewhere down here, we called client or user left, and that was handle user left. So let's go ahead and check out this function. So we call this when we actually leave the stream. Well, the issue here is we're actually not leaving the stream. We're simply unpublishing, but we're still in that video stream. Our video is not publishing, but we're there, so we haven't left. So the way that I'm going to solve this is right now, technically, if this user just leaves, then it'll work. But if that user is still in the video stream, I'm just going to handle this in another way. So we'll have both functions actually handle that. And essentially what I'm going to say is I'm just going to go ahead and send out a message using Agora RTM. We're just going to send out a message to everybody in that channel saying, hey, this user has left. Go ahead and remove their element or their video frame from the DOM. So it's simply going to be a message that we're going to send out when we actually leave the stream, but not the room. So in this function right here, if we leave a stream, let's go ahead and at the bottom, let's go ahead and actually send out a chat message. So we'll just go ahead and do channel.send message. And with this message type, we're going to go ahead and throw in text. We'll go ahead and stringify that again. So we'll do json.stringify, and let's throw in the object. And the type here of the actual message is going to be, let's see, what do I want to call this? I'm just going to go ahead and call this user underscore left. So that's what we'll call the type, or the message type. So we'll do user underscore left. Okay, so we're sending this message, and the other thing that I want to send here is simply the user ID, or the UID. So I want to know what user left so we can send this message to all the other users, find that container in the DOM, and then remove it. So we'll throw in our UID. So as we leave, we tear everything down, we unpublish, and then we send a message, and then we're passing in the type of user left with that UID. Now, if I go into room underscore RTM, we have this function to handle these messages. So remember, we can send a lot more than just a chat message. This can be any kind of message, just as long as we're sending data. So in that handle message function, let's see, somewhere here. It's a lot of work that we've done here, so it's kind of hard to find it. Handle, I think it's towards the bottom. Okay, add message to DOM, send message, handle channel message. Okay, so at this point, we're just going to do if data.type, if this is user underscore left, so user underscore left, let's go ahead and remove this user from the DOM. So if this is the type, let's go ahead and do document, so document.get element by ID, and we're just going to go ahead and grab that user container. So we'll do user-container, and then we'll throw in that user ID. So at this point, it's data .uid because we sent that with that channel message. And then we're just simply going to remove it. So we'll do remove. And then I guess all we need to do at this point is see if this user was in the display frame and then simply resize everything. So let's go back in here. Let's take the same exact value and let's just go into this user left function. And I think that's all we need. We can simply just repeat this, make sure everything's resized, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so let's go ahead and check this out. We'll join the stream. So let's bring in another user and we'll just call this one Steve, join. Okay, so here's Paul's stream. So if Paul leaves, now this stream was removed from here and that's perfect. So it's working exactly how we wanted it and Paul can join again and everything is working. So there's one last thing that I want to work out. It's not really an issue, but it's going to remove an error from the console. And that is if I happen to leave the stream and if I go into inspect element, if I happen to actually close out with this user, we're going to see, oh, it was actually in this frame right here. We're going to see this error right here. And essentially when we call handle or user left with Agora RTC, we're also trying to remove that DOM element, or we're trying to remove that entire video frame. So that's going to cause an issue because that video frame technically doesn't exist because we removed it by sending that message. So inside of room_RTC in handle user left, let's go ahead and just do this. Let's just make this a quick fix. We'll patch it up. We'll just do item is equal to this right here. So let's go ahead and run a condition. So we'll just do if item. So if it actually exists, then let's remove it. So we'll just do item.remove. So it's a quick fix here. Okay, so I just noticed it as I was finishing up this video. So let's try this again and let's see. So if we join, we'll be in frame. Then if we join as another user, let's think of another name. Okay, so let's go into inspect here. So in console, if I leave, and then I go in here and then close this out, that error doesn't show up anymore. Everything looks good, and it all checks out. So that's it for this video. I had a lot of fun with this project. I hope you enjoy it, and be sure to check out the live demo down in the video description. So that demo might look a little bit different from what we built out here because I will keep adding features to that. So be sure to check that out and make sure to check out my YouTube channel, Dennis Ivy. That's linked up in the video description. So thank you, Brad, for allowing me to collaborate again. This is a lot of fun. I'm sure it's not going to be the last time. I always enjoy doing this. So see you all in another video, and thank you for everything.